Good afternoon, everyone. This is Mike Walmsley, and welcome to today's webinar with Simon Selkirk, Motivation, Fueling Performance. As you can see on the screen, employee engagement, retention in recruitment. Now, if you look at staff turnover in our industry, it's pretty bad. In fact, I was at a director meeting today, that my Pinnacle program for recruitment directors, and we talked about this issue, and it's in the region of 30 to 40% in some instances, sometimes even more than that. Why is that? Why do people become demotivated? Why is staff turnover so high? And there are a number of factors to that, but certainly motivation or lack of is a component of it. Now, we're aware of the impact that monetary rewards can have on people, the way that you're managed and so on. But have you ever stopped to think about how you measure that, apart from some kind of gut feel? Apart from just asking somebody on the staircase, how are you feeling about things? Well, my eyes were open to how you measure motivation, and in a way that you can then do things to improve it, by Simon. Simon has worked in the industry now for over 20 years, had a very successful career in recruitment, and has figured it out. So he came along to my director program a few months ago now and did a sparkling presentation on not just how you motivate people, but how you measure the motivation. And I thought it was really fascinating because I'd never been able to work that out myself. So Simon, I'm delighted to have you here. I'm very much looking forward to your presentation.
Thanks, Mike, and thank you for the introduction, and hello everybody. Can you hear me okay?
All good, I can hear you loud and clear.
Perfect, great. Okay, so yeah, as Mike said, this is a presentation, a webinar all about motivation. So let's crack on. We think we've got a limited amount of time, about half an hour. So hopefully I'll be able to get through all of the content, and you will be able to ask any questions as we go. If anything does crop up and you do have a question, just type it into the Zoom panel, and Mike will be able to present the question to me. So let's begin. A quick overview of myself, as Mike said. Yes, I have been in recruitment since 1996. I've worked in London and spent 3 fun years in recruiting in Sydney as well. I set up RightClick in 2005. Initially, we were 100% focused on the recruitment process, and now we work with our clients across the full employee life cycle. And when we talk about the full employee life cycle, it goes beyond attraction onto onboarding, retention, development, and also departure of their staff through employee engagement. And motivation plays a very central role in all of those service streams. So what I would like to do is just give an overview of what we're going to talk about today. So our agenda. The title is Fueling Performance, Employee Engagement and Retention in Recruitment. So I'd like to start by looking at each of those elements, by looking at performance and what that actually means, then having a bit of a dive into employee engagement as a concept, and then looking at retention of staff in a broader context than just the recruitment industry, but as Mike said, that's clearly an issue within our industry. Then what I'd like to do is explore motivation in more detail, both as a concept, what is motivation, but also in terms of the constructs of motivation, which is really what motivates us as individuals. And then I'd like to introduce a framework for understanding, measuring, and improving individual and team motivation, which is what my talk was when I presented to Mike's Pinnacle group back, I think it was the beginning of July. So let's get started. Performance. What I'd like to do is I'd like to look at a simplistic formula for the performance of not just your consultants, but your managers, and indeed yourself. I'm making the assumption that most of the people on this webinar are business owners or senior managers within recruitment businesses, and we look at performance as a function of 3 core areas in a really quite simplistic but quite profound model. So if we look at the first area, which is very important when you're looking at your own performance, but also the performance of your staff. We look at direction. And by direction, we mean, does the company have a clear vision? Where is this boat headed? It's very important for your staff to know the direction that the company in and of itself is headed. Does it have a clear vision? Do they, as an individual, do you as an individual have a detailed job description? Do you know exactly what your job on the boat is? And have you been set clear objectives, what you need to do over the next day, week, month, quarter, whatever it is? Do you have the management and support and advice there to keep you on the right course, to keep you redirected, as it were, to pull you back in line? So direction is critical in terms of performance. And are you getting the feedback, or are you giving the feedback to make sure that the member of your team is getting that is heading in the right direction? How are they doing against their objectives? So in this model, the first part is direction. Are we providing direction to ourselves and to our staff? The second part that I think instinctively we know is how equipped is our team to be able to perform the objectives within their job description. And when we talk about skills, and what qualifications do they have? What is their knowledge and experience? What have they built up either in previous roles or in their role within the business? What training have they had? What training do they need? And what coaching, support and advice are they getting on a day-to-day basis from management in order to make sure that they are utilising their skills in the most appropriate way? The third part, and the context for this webinar is motivation, which is really how much fuel do they have in the tank? How energized are they in order to apply their skills in the direction that you as a business owner or you as a manager have set for them? All of these parts play a critical role in this equation in order to ensure optimal performance. And I think we can all agree as recruitment business owners, the performance of our staff is absolutely critical to the success of our business and critical to them as individuals as well. So if we look at ideal performance, and I think we can agree that there is no such thing as your ideal, but if there were to be, it would be someone who had perfect direction, knew exactly where they were going, where the company was going, what they were doing, completely skilled and completely motivated. So we're looking there at a performance rating out of 100. Sadly, I think we all know that average is a little more common than ideal. And if we look at a very simplistic average performer, not particularly well managed, not particularly skilled, and not very motivated, the equation here is startling. In that this person is performing at about 12.5% of their potential, which I think shows that there is tremendous upside in this equation for us to improve not just the direction, the management capability within our businesses and within our teams, not just the skills, which is really where the performance development or the personal development budget goes, but looking at also at improving motivation. Michael Jordan said, all I knew is that I never wanted to be average. And I think we see the danger there of being average is sub-average performance. We really need to be looking at improving management, improving skills, but perhaps the part that goes unnoticed in this equation is improving the motivation of our team. So the question I'd like to ask you as participation in today's webinar, and don't feel you have to answer this question now, but it's really a question that you need to be asking yourself, is what does your personal performance equation look like? How well directed do you feel? How skilled are you to do your current role currently? And perhaps most importantly, how motivated are you currently to undertake your current role? And once you've answered that for yourself, perhaps more searchingly, how does your team's individual performance equations, what do they look like? Are you setting them the direction? Are you giving them the opportunity to develop the skills? And perhaps most importantly, are you creating an environment in which they are motivated? So what we've done there
Simon,
is
just to interject for a second, I'm
of
just
course.
wondering if people felt comfortable popping an anonymous answer in the chat room, and I can then give some real-time feedback as to how people are feeling.
So if you score yourself, put direction to one side. If you score yourself out of 10 on how skilled you feel you are in your current role, and then score yourself out of 10 how motivated you feel in your current role, and then multiply those two figures together, what score do we get? Are there any scores coming through, Mike?
Not yet. So we'll see.
Time to open up and be honest with yourselves.
I've got a 72 coming in from, I won't mention the person's name.
That's pretty good. Yep.
A 32. Wow.
Wow.
So only 2 people so far, but
yeah,
there you go. Another one coming in now. 85.
Yeah, good.
Another one. She's good. Okay, interesting.
Yeah. And I think what is most profound is if you look at 60 as 6 out of 10 as an average score, six on your skills, 6 on your motivation, you're only performing at 36% of your capability, which I think is quite profound for a lot of people to feel that you've got someone who's 60% skilled, 60% motivated. There is still tremendous upside. And the important thing for us to remember when we talk about motivation isn't a shot in the arm. Motivation isn't a quick fix. Motivation is like fitness. Motivation is like preparing for a marathon. And if you were to ask Mo Farah if he was happy with 82% in his preparation or 85%, he would tell you that he wasn't. So there's never a time to say that my performance is optimal. It's something that we need to be looking at both within ourselves, but particularly within our staff on a day-to-day basis in order to ensure that the performance is optimized. And what
Simon, I had another comment coming in saying the person. Can you hear me, Simon?
Yes, yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I had another point coming in from one of the delegates saying they personally feel they're at 100, which is great.
Yeah.
But they want their team to be the same.
Yeah.
Which I guess you're going to come on to.
Definitely. I think 100 is an ambitious target, because I personally, having been in recruitment for over 20 years, is there a consultant that is completely skilled, and there is nothing left to teach them, and do we have 10 out of 10 motivation day in, day out? Even if it is a momentary lapse in motivation of a candidate not accepting a role or something, we all know that there are the little gems in our day-to-day activity that serve to kick us quite hard in the teeth. So yeah, I think 100 would be a stretch. For our consultants, it's great that you feel you're 100. That's great. But what I would always be looking at is, as you would say, Mike, from the skills side, we'd always be looking at tweaking and developing those skills, coaching those skills, training them, making them a better consultant, but always looking at their motivation. And we will, we're obviously going to do a deeper dive into motivation. What I'm doing here is just providing a context as to how motivation sits in that performance equation. Does that answer that question?
I believe it does. Yeah, thank you.
Good, excellent. Okay, so let's look at employee engagement. And I think employee engagement is a phrase that we use internally within our businesses. Our clients use when they talk about their recruitment cycle being the first part of the engagement that they have with their employees and their future employees. But in order to talk about engagement, I think it's important to have a common classification. And in our work, we found that the organisation that provides us with a clear overview of what employee engagement is an organisation called Gallup, who are a US-based consultancy, but they do a lot of work over in the UK. And they say that employees who are engaged are employees who are involved in, enthusiastic about, and committed to their work and their workplace. And what does that mean? Well, it's employees who have a cognitive and emotional connection to their work. They know why they're there, they know what they're doing, and they're emotionally connected to it. It is part and parcel of them. It's not something they turn up and do and go home. They're intrinsically aligned to the company purpose, vision, and values. They know where the boat is going. They want to be on that boat, and they're excited by the journey that boat's going. And they're also committed to their personal and their team's collective contribution to company objectives, which is actually another description of performance, really, isn't it? It's you know, performance is measured against company objectives. So you can't have an employee that feels that they're performing. What you can have, as we'll see in a second, an employee that feels that they're performing, but if they're not actually performing in line with company objectives, then that performance is not well directed. So let's look at employee engagement in that context, in a simplistic graph. So on the bottom here we have performance measured out of 100, and we've looked at how we can measure performance there. You would also be able to look at kind of KPIs and revenue and placement volume, etc., and how motivated your team are and in their current role. So if we look at the axis of engagement, in the top right hand quadrant, we get bottom is and are actively disengaged, and we'll talk about these people in a little bit more when we actually look at the figures that are currently out there in UK PLC. In the top left hand quadrant, we have what we call our honeymooners, or our hamsters. Honeymooners are people who have recently joined the business. They're still on their honeymoon. They're within their probationary period. Everything's new. Everything's shiny. They're loving what they see, and loving being new within the business. They're highly motivated, but they're actually not performing. They might not even know how to log onto their computer as yet, but they're highly motivated, but not really contributing. Or we have our hamsters. Hamsters are good at doing two things. They're good at going round and round in their wheel, but not really getting anywhere. So they're very motivated, but not achieving anything at all. Or hamsters are fast asleep. So these people are very happy coming to work to be asleep at their desks. Either way, you need to be moving your honeymooners and your hamsters. You need to be looking at their performance and increasing their performance so that they move into the top right-hand quadrant. Or you need to be working with them to be looking for another opportunity in another organisation that might well stimulate them more. In the bottom right hand quadrant, we have our crash and burners, these people who are performing, but they're not enjoying it. They are not motivated, but they are delivering their figures. This is where stress and anxiety reside. These people are not happy, and they are either going to burn out, or they are going to be leaving the business. So why, when we talk about employee engagement, why is it important for us to have an engaged workforce? If we had a bit more time, we could ask for interaction on this question. But if I kind of present the highlight figures as to what the benefits of an engaged workforce, so an engaged member of staff is happier and more fulfilled in your business. They're more aligned to your company objectives. Consequently, they are higher performing, and they're more productive as well, which means that there is less presenteeism. Presenteeism is where people are effectively absent from your business, but they just happen to show up to work to be absent. So they're present but not contributing. An engaged workforce is healthier, and it's less stressed. So you actually have less absenteeism through illness. They deliver higher levels of customer service, be that to your candidates and to your clients. They're more engaged with what they're doing, and that engagement is contagious. It transfers down the telephone. It certainly transfers face-to-face in client meetings and in candidate interviews as well. They're more likely to contribute to your business. They're more likely to come up with solutions, see problems, volunteer suggestions, and provide higher levels of innovation. Greater adherence to health and safety. You know, it's a fairly dreary area, but you know, the stats are really quite profound in this area. Greater collaboration, they're going to work better together. More fun to be around, which let's face it, you know, we all know recruitment as a sport. We need to have fun whilst we're doing it. Engaged employees have more fun at work. This is a fairly obvious point. Engaged employees are not actively disengaged. You know, actively disengaged people are causing your business problems. And as I said, we will cover what active disengagement means in a bit. And there is statistical evidence out there that says that employees that are more engaged in your business have higher levels of retention. These are the stats. I won't go into them too much, but it shows that, you know, if we look at the turnover in a high turnover organization, 60% difference between engaged, the top right hand quadrant, and the bottom left hand quadrant. So the top quartile is 60% more likely to stay in your business in a high turnover, sorry, in a low turnover organization. Than the bottom left-hand quartile as well. That's 25% in a high turnover business. Really startling when you see what engagement does to retention. If we look at sales, 20% more productive in a sales environment, and 10% more customer focused. I talked about safety instance, 70% increase in health and safety from engaged and disengaged staff. Which is quite profound. Very quickly, overview of how engaged the workforce is in the UK at the moment. And this is across the board, this is average, but I think, as Mike said in his introduction, we know that we suffer from high levels of turnover within the recruitment industry. Our retention levels are poor, so we are contributing quite considerably to these figures. If you look at UK PLC as a boat containing 10 people, 18%, the front two people are engaged. They know where the boat is going. They're pulling on the oars. They know what their job is, and they're enjoying the journey, eyes front, and very committed to getting the boat where it needs to go. At the back, we have 36% of people who are disengaged. They're not overly bothered where the boat's going. They might not even know what the boat where the boat's going. They don't really know what their job is, and they're not pulling their oars at all. Scarily, 21% are actively disengaged. This means that they are participating in activity to disrupt this boat. The person at the back might even be drilling a hole in the boat in order to disrupt where the boat is going, which leaves 46% in the middle on a spectrum of engagement. So there is a tremendous opportunity here, if this is representative of your business, to start moving people up the boat and increasing this percentage here of engagement. The question I'd like to ask is who is sinking your boat, and whether that's your individual boat. Might you be sinking your own individual boat, and certainly who's sinking your company boat? Who is in this actively engaged, disengaged sector here? Again, here we talk about 21%, according to the CIPD, will be leaving the business. Sadly, it's not the same 21% who are actively disengaged. We know that the people within your business who are going to be looking to leave are going to be coming from the lower motivated people, but unfortunately you will lose people who are higher motivated. Significantly less come from this higher engagement quadrant here. So it's in everyone's interest to ensure that their employees are engaged. How do we improve employee engagement? Well, we look at improving engagement through performance, which we've already seen has an element of motivation in it, but we also need to be looking at improving our consultants' motivation as well. Is this all making sense, Mike?
All good, Simon. Yeah, thank you. Good.
Okay. So what is the problem that we have with motivation? Okay, so if we look at this equation of performance, if we look at direction, okay, we know how we can improve the direction within our business. We can look at our management frameworks. We can look at our mission, vision, and value statements. We can look at job descriptions. We can look at objective settings. Similarly with skills, we've got competency frameworks and skills matrix. Our performance, we can measure in KPIs, revenue, placement, volume, candidate feedback. When it comes to motivation, this is what Mike was talking about earlier. Motivation suddenly becomes a very ephemeral concept, a very abstract and ambiguous concept. It comes down to a gut feel. I know my team. Probably the most dangerous one here is assumptions, assuming that you are motivated in the same way that I am. So it becomes very, very difficult to measure motivation because we don't have a language of motivation. If we lack the language of measuring height, yes, we can see that this person on the left is taller than the person on the right, but it's not until we introduce a measurement framework and a language, we can see that the person on the left is 10, the person on the right is a 5. We know that this person is twice as tall as this person. So then we can look about improving because we now have a language that allows us to do that. So the question I have for you guys is, what is motivation? What is it as a concept? And the best description we have is that motivation is the fuel that's needed to keep the human engine running. It's the fuel that we put in our tanks on a day-to-day basis to keep that engine running. And the quote that I don't know who's it's attributed, that's very important as well, is no one gets out of bed in the morning because of their personality. It's not your personality that drives you, it is your motivation that drives you. Okay, so what motivates us as individuals? What motivates a 15-year-old Roger Federer compared to a 36-year-old, 37-year-old motivator? Roger Federer? What motivates this individual here? What motivates Mother Teresa? What motivates this financial trader? These are all very different motivations that are driving these people forward. What motivates Bill Gates today? What motivates this individual as they sit their exams at university? What motivates this guy here? Very different to what it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. And critically importantly, what motivates this person here? And this is your employee. This is someone sitting at their desk at work. And the answer to this question is we don't know. We really don't know what it motivates that individual. And motivation is a complex mix. We are all individuals. We are all motivated differently. There's no one single thing that motivates us. It's a complex mix of motivators. And motivation, it's important to understand where motivation comes from within us. It's made up of our past experiences, our beliefs, our values, our current circumstances, and our future expectations. And if you can see that, that shows how individual we are. It's our past experiences, our beliefs and our values, our current circumstances, and our future expectations, which means that motivation is dynamic. It means that our motivation changes, and it can change quite quickly as our current circumstances and our future expectations change. And to a certain degree, our beliefs and our values change as well. So, what I would ask you to explore within yourself, what motivates you? And we've already said it's a difficult thing because we don't have that framework. So what I want to start introducing here, and we're starting to run out of time, is our framework for measuring motivation. We break motivation down across 9 core motivators. It's roughly based around Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which most of you will know about. And what it does is it allows us to look at motivation across 9 core motivators. I'll quickly go through this. I'm more than happy to spend time with any of you that want to find out more about this. But this gives you a framework to start looking at not just your motivations and motivators, but the motivators within your team. So we have people who are motivated by security, predictability, routine. They like things to be the same. They come to work because of the repetitive nature. They do enjoy repetition. They like to know that things are secure and predictable. That's your defender. There are people who come to work because of the meaningful relationships they build. Typically, that is with their colleagues. They enjoy being part of a wider team. They enjoy the involvement and the collaboration. It might well be with the candidates and the clients that they deal with, but you will know people in your teams who are very friendly. Don't confuse this with sociability. Sociable people can be low friend. They don't come to work to build meaningful relationships. They come to work for other motivations. I used to be a very high friend. I'm not so high friend anymore, which is a problem for me when I'm managing high friend people, as we'll see in a second. Star is this is the recognition. This is the pat on the back. This is someone who comes to work and enjoys being the center of attention. They enjoy hierarchy. They might be motivated by job title, the respect, the status, the recognition. One thing that's very important to put out on the table at this point in time is that when we use this framework, this is not a prescriptive framework. We don't tell people what motivates them through their motivational profile. It's a consultative framework. It allows us to ask questions around what they interpret their motivational profile to be. So that makes it a very, very powerful management tool because it gives you real insight into that individual. So those are called the relationship motivators. There are 3 core motivators there. We then move into our achievement motivators, which are director, which is power over resources. That doesn't have to just be human resources, it can be other resources as well. But typically these people like to be in control, they like to lead the team, they like to have their opinions listened to. They might, like to be in control of resources and, work in HR or procurement, but they are they are motivated by responsibility. Builder is your typical sales, what you would ascribe to a typical recruitment motivator, goal-orientated, commercial, money-motivated. Money is not the motivator that most of us think it is. Any of you that's interested in finding out more about why money isn't a motivator should look at Daniel Pink and his work around his book called Drive. There are some very good YouTube videos out there about why money is not a motivator. And there are people who like to build expertise. You will know these people from within your business. They struggle to pick up the phone without knowing exactly what the company does, who they're about to call. They like to have all the facts. They like to build that knowledge and that insight before they act. They also want to gain qualifications. They want to learn. They want to develop because that is their achievement. That is their motivator. We then move into what are called the growth motivators. People who are motivated by innovation, solutions, coming up with ideas, love change, love things not staying the same so that they can come up with ideas to make things different. Spirit is high independence, like to be autonomous, in control of themselves. And then searcher is very high purpose, very high meaning. This is a motivator that's becoming more and more prevalent in the workforce nowadays. I don't want to kind of bandy labels like millennial around, but millennials are typically very purpose driven. So this is our motivational framework. We all have all 9 of those in our framework, in our profile, and how we are motivated depends on how we rank all of those against each other, and the strength to which we weight those. The framework is called motivational maps. So let's just look at this very, very quickly. This is an individual. This is actually a client of ours, a sales manager, 54% motivated currently. Okay, his significant motivators are anything that score over 20. So we can see that he's motivated by expert, builder, defender, spirit, creator. If we want to improve this person's motivation, we can look at anything that's dragging this percentage down. We can see that his autonomy is seriously suffering 3 out of 10. His expertise is only a 5 out of 10. His creator is only a 5 out of 10. Straight away, we've got areas that we can work with this individual. And we can see that the lowest motivator often acts as a positive, as a reinforcer. So if the fact that he is a low director, high spirit, means that there is a certain way to manage this person. This person does not value a controlling management style. They like their freedom and their independence. So as this was a member of our team, straight away, we know how we can work on improving their motivation. It becomes more powerful when we introduce the managers profile. In this case, it was the business owner's profile. We can see 2 people who are motivated differently, 54 and 83. The manager's high spirit conflicts with or is supported by the low director of the individual, but the manager is a high director manager. You can see he's 22 and 80% motivated in that area, which conflicts directly with the way that this individual is being managed. We can see here that the high expert in the individual is being balanced by a relatively low expert in the manager. The manager doesn't value expertise. And we can see someone who is highly motivated in the manager in terms of creativity, but in the individual is not as creative. So the solutions that we came up with this individual was not just related to their individual profile, it was also their managers. We could talk to their manager and the manager could talk to the individual about their management style, the fact that he was high director against a high spirit. We worked on this individual by building his expertise. He went out and met suppliers and worked with them, and the manager himself spent time on product training, and we worked on increasing this person's input into creating solutions within the business. So it became a management tool for the manager to work with the individual on building his motivation, but also in improving his management style. Very, very quick, high-level overview of the framework. So,
Simon, can I just ask you a question on that?
Of course.
Please?
Do you want to go back on that slide?
Just go back a slide, yeah. So the score, how is that evaluated, and what does PMA mean, and how is that evaluated?
Yeah. So the PMA is your personal motivation audit. So how motivated are you at the point of taking this profile? So the manager, when he took the profile, came out as 83%. That is an algorithm of all his main motivators, which are these main motivators here over 20. So on the manager, his spirit, builder, director, searcher, creator all contribute to that PMA score of 83%. The manager is 83% motivated compared to the individual, who is only 54% motivated. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. It's a good question to ask, Mike, and clarify it. So this tells us a lot about the individual. What is their motivational profile mix? How do they rank the 9 different motivators? How much weight do they place on those rankings? So my highest motivator is a 34. My lowest motivator is a 7. So my range is 27 points, which is quite extreme. That means that my motivators have to be met in order for me to be motivated. You can get someone who's only got a 5 or 6 spread, so they're 24% motivated and 19% motivated, which means they're a lot more flexible. They've got a lot more motivators that they can call upon. So I'm being very, very high level on this, but when you learn to read these motivational maps, it gives you tremendous insight on yourself as a manager, what motivates you, what drives you, how you manage your team, but also what motivates your team and how you can work with them. The beauty of this as well is, and I see this with all the businesses that we work with, it becomes part and parcel of their management tool. So this individual can now tell their manager that they're really annoying them because of their high director management style. That's an impossible conversation to have with your manager without this framework to talk about it. You can't sit there in an appraisal saying you're really annoying me. Now, obviously, that's not the phrase that you would use. That's not the language, but the manager would introduce. So how's my management this month? We can work on it together, the two of us, in order to improve motivation and develop management skills. So it's a 12-minute online personal inventory. It's not a test. It's not a personality profile. Personality profiles measure static personality traits. This measures dynamic motivational states. Really should be mapping people's motivation at least every 6 months. Ranks the 9 motivators by preference and strength. Measures current level of motivation. That can change very, very rapidly. Clearly identifies areas for improvement and delivers motivational metrics for ongoing management coaching and development. It's quantitative, it's objective, it gives you actual metrics that you can use with your team and with yourself. In recruitment, and we found this ourselves, it's very good at elevating and differentiating your business. It means you can have a tool for new business development. When we present to new clients now, it's very, very rare about recruitment. We talk to them about onboarding. We talk to them about retention. We talk to them about employee engagement. We talk to them about staff performance. And then we drop in that we also do recruitment, and it elevates us from our competition. It strengthens us with our existing clients that we have, because we have new service streams that we can introduce to them. It makes candidates sticky. If you're profiling candidates and feeding back their motivational profile to them, it adds tremendous value to your candidate journey, but it also gives you a very, very, very good reason to call them back in 6 months, find out how they are, and offer them another motivational profile, because their motivation profile will have changed. Interestingly, your growth motivators, everything else being equal, so those 3 at the top will continue to grow over your career, over your life. There are very few people out there who crave less independence or crave less purpose. Your growth motivators will grow at the expense of other motivators, so your profile is constantly moving. Definitely, it creates a new revenue stream. When we consult, we're charging our people out at somewhere between £1,500 and £1,700 a day to add value to our clients through the use of this tool. So hopefully I've been able to demonstrate that motivation is essential within recruitment. And I think instinctively we all know that. We all know that a more motivated team it is better for us as a business and better for them as consultants. We do know that a more motivated, similarly skilled consultants, the higher motivated consultant will outperform the lower motivated consultant on every occasion. We've worked out that motivation is a complex mix of motivators, and that we are all motivated differently. And we've also worked out that you can't improve what you don't measure. So having a framework that allows you to put a language around motivation, gives you that understanding of what a motivation is and allows you to measure it, also allows you to improve motivation and implement those improvements and benefit from those improvements across your business. So that, in 37 minutes, is a very quick overview of motivation within recruitment and the framework that we use. I'm more than happy to field a few questions now, or to follow up with anyone that wants to find out more.
Thank you, Simon. Appreciate that. Was a whistle-stop tour of a deep subject. I think the fascinating thing for me is if you look at our industry and the complete dearth of management development for people who end up in managerial positions, and this seems to me, it gives that individual and people who are more experienced who've been doing it for years, finally there's a way of analysing and measuring. Most recruitment directors understand that measuring KPIs or whatever you call it in your business to then improve it. But I think the brilliance of this is motivation with the intention of improving it. It links into employee engagement. So I think it's very, very clever. And obviously in my business, I've tried out your tool and I think it's great. So would it be okay for any of the delegates who wanted to get complimentary access to your tool and have a look at it?
Yes, certainly. And anyone that's enjoyed what they've heard here and wants to find out more, the best way to find out more is to undertake the profile yourself, and then to go through a debrief session with me, and then you can see how the tool is used in direct relation to yourself as an individual, and that is how you can build on your understanding and of your motivation and your self-awareness as a person, but also on the use of this tool. So yes, I'd be more than happy to offer anyone that's listening this a complimentary.
Great. Well, thank you for that. But in any case, to be able to look at the 9 different elements there and to think where there is a conflict between you as a manager and the individual recruiter. So hopefully everyone's got something at least they can take away from your sharing your knowledge with us today.
And I think just to expand on that very quickly, Mike, is we all view the world through our own lenses, and those lenses are shaped by our values and our beliefs and our personal experiences, which are also our motivators. So actually we view the world through what motivates us, and by assuming that our team are motivated in the same way, we're making the assumption that they see the world the way that we see it. So yeah, the most important thing to take away from this is that every single person that you manage is an individual, and for you to understand, either using this tool or by sitting down and asking them some pretty searching questions, if you understand why they're coming to work, if you understand what it is that gets them out of bed in the morning, then you will understand them and the way that they see the world, which will make you a better manager and make them happier in your business, because you're managing them as an individual, not as a carbon copy of yourself.
Thank you, Simon. I really appreciate your time today. I hope everyone's enjoyed that. And let's get back on the desk and make some more placements.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Bye.